Joe Rogan is not messing around when it comes to protecting him and his family's safety, and recent reports that have emerged say he has hired armed and dangerous security outside of his home in Austin, Texas. But who's the multi-millionaire podcaster protecting himself from? Make sure you watch till the end of the video, as we'll be going through all of the details and examining all the facts surrounding why Joe Rogan is in enough danger to hire armed security. So, why is Joe Rogan a target? Joe Rogan's podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, airs exclusively on Spotify, after the streaming giant paid a massive undisclosed fee for the rights back in May of 2020. It's unclear exactly how much was spent, with reports initially claiming the fee was around $100 million. Recently, though, a New York Times report claimed that the actual fee might have been as much as double what was initially reported. Spotify was seemingly happy to let the smaller fee continue to get bandied around without anyone from the company stepping in to correct the public discourse. Since this information came out and Spotify's silence on it became more obvious, the negative publicity surrounding the show has been growing almost by the day. The podcaster had been described as a, quote, a real-life villain with dangerous opinions, and more past excerpts from his show have been circulating with comments ranging from transphobia to misleading and scientifically fast information. He suggested that young people should turn down the COVID vaccine and allegedly promoted horse deworming pills to cure the virus. With this in mind, Spotify might be regretting spending what sounds like was probably closer to $200 million in order to air the show. Certainly, their silence on the matter has turned almost a few heads. Despite this, though, the podcast still brings in over 11 million listeners per episode and was a massive asset to the platform just until recently. The question now is, where did it all go wrong? Where did it all go wrong then? Well, on January 12th, 270 medical professionals sent an open letter to Spotify asking them to institute a misinformation policy. The group consists of scientists, professors, doctors, and healthcare workers who want to stop the spread of misinformation online. The letter specifically made reference to an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, specifically episode 1757, which featured an interview with Dr. Robert Malone. And what was it that was discussed in that episode which was so alarming? Well, we'll get to that in a bit. The letter called on Spotify to take action against the mass misinformation events which they claimed continued to occur on its platform. Neither Spotify nor Joe Rogan responded to the letter, and this only made things worse, as on January 24th, a certain legendary rock star got involved, and he wasn't the only one. Who are Joe Rogan's main critics? The rock star mentioned above was the famous Neil Young, who posted a now-deleted open letter on his website asking Spotify to remove his music from their platform, citing fake information about vaccines which could cause death to those who believed it. He said specifically they can have Rogan or Young, not both. This is heavy stuff, and Spotify duly obliged, causing further controversy by removing Young's music and effectively choosing Joe Rogan over him. Neil Young wasn't the only one to make this move either. His actions triggered a wave of popular musicians removing themselves from the streaming platform, including Joni Mitchell. But why were they so upset? The reason for their indignation was less the Joe Rogan episode itself, but more the guest who was on it, Robert Malone. Malone, who bills himself as having played a key role in the creation of mRNA vaccines, has emerged as one of the most controversial voices of the movement against coronavirus vaccines and health mandates. His claims and suggestions that the COVID-19 vaccines are not working have been discredited and denounced by medical professionals as not only wrong, but also as dangerous. Rogan, having him on the show, was seen as not only supporting his stance, but also giving it a platform. His podcast averages 11 million listeners per episode, so it's hard to argue with that logic. Joe Rogan, who also drew heat for his conversation with top cardiologist Dr. Peter McCullough, who claimed that the COVID pandemic was, quote, planned, then published an apology for his actions, and Spotify did not take his podcast down from the platform despite removing around 100 episodes of his podcast before this. So, was that the end of it? You would have thought that was the end of it, right? Well, the short answer is no. And there's been no shortage of further celebrities calling out Rogan publicly for his actions. Since the fallout over the Malone episode, things have gone from bad to worse for Rogan. The next step in the saga was the emergence of a video showing times when Rogan had said the N-word on his podcast, and this was really bad. Rogan apologized for the video, but also described it as a political hit job. The question is, if he was apologizing, why did he do it in the first place? In the apology, Rogan explained explained that the video was made of clips taken out of context of him from 12 years of conversations on his podcast. He said it was all smushed together and admitted that it looks horrible, even to him. He explained that even though he had used the N-word in the past, he had not used the slur in years, and said that he knew there was no context where a white person should ever be allowed to say the word, let alone on a public forum. Clearly, he agreed with that sentiment now, even though he didn't for a long time before this. As he explained, when the word came up in conversation, rather than calling it the N-word, he would just say the word, thinking that as long as it was in context, people would understand what he was doing. Clearly, that wasn't the case. Rogan explained outright that he had never used it to be racist, clarifying that one of the times he said the word, it was in reference to comedian Red Fox using it on TV in the 70s, and another occasion was in reference to a Richard Pryor album. Rogan ended the apology by saying, "It's not my word to use. I'm well aware of that now." Good apology, right? Well, some people agreed. Samuel L. Jackson is one of the latest high-profile figures who didn't think so. The Pulp Fiction and Marvel star said that there is no context where a white person is ever allowed to say the word, never mind publicly on a podcast. Jackson understood that Rogan thinks nobody understood the context when he said it, but stamped down on the fact that Rogan shouldn't have said it at all. Jackson said, "It's not the context, dude. It's that he was comfortable doing it. Say that you're sorry because you want to keep your money, but you were having fun and you say you did it because it was entertaining. It needs to be an element of what the story is about. A story is context, but just to elicit a laugh, that's wrong." So why did he hire armed guards? All this high-profile back and forth on Joe Rogan's actions and Spotify's role in supporting him has clearly led to a lot of hate for the podcaster and the platform, and it is this hate, as well as the general discourse surrounding it, that has caused Rogan to hire not just security guards, but armed and dangerous professionals to protect him and his family. These guards are said to be positioned around his $14.4 million property in Austin, Texas, which is monitored by CCTV. Rogan is a father of two and lives there with his wife Jessica after the family moved to the southern city from California around 2 years ago. A source close to the Rogan family explained that Joe wants his family to be safe more than anything. Apparently, there are sometimes a dozen people a day turning up at the property to drop things off in his letterbox. The source said, obviously any crazy person could turn up and try anything. He's got supporters as well as enemies, it's fair to say. No one has tried anything drastic at this point, and it seems the security team there is preemptive just in case things take a turn for the worse. People come from all over the country to visit Rogan's house, and the chaos surrounding him has been described as pretty wild. Clearly, Rogan does not want anything to ever get out of hand, and this has been the case for a long time. But the current criticisms and controversies surrounding him made these concerns even more prevalent. Rogan gets multiple high-profile guests to his property as well in order to film the podcast, so it's probably better to be safe. So, who did he hire? Apparently, the guards Joe Rogan is using are the best of the best. Someone close to the podcaster was quoted as saying, "These aren't just retired Navy SEALs who have been linked to Joe before. They are professionals who have worked with the biggest names in entertainment and politics. These are real elite operators, most definitely not some local outfit. They're armed and dangerous, and he's not messing around when it comes to his family's safety." Do you think Joe Rogan is right to go to such extreme measures to protect his family, or is he blowing things out of proportion? Let us know in the comments down below, and be sure to like and subscribe as well if you liked this video. We'll see you next time.